Elena just wanted to save her grandmother. Naomi just wanted to stay in school. But that night they almost became criminals, right under the awning of StarView Cinemas. What they didn't know was that the man mopping the floor nearby wasn't just a janitor. He was Lucas Grant, the CEO of the entire theatre chain, undercover to expose the truth. And what he overheard didn't just change the fate of two young women. It brought down an entire system that once seemed untouchable. This story will make you stop and ask, who was really in the wrong all along? Please click the subscribe button and turn on notifications to support us. Lucas Grant stood in front of the staff restroom mirror, staring at his reflection, barely recognizing the man who looked back. The tailored suit he normally wore had been replaced by a pale grey janitor's uniform. His face was covered in light stubble, his hair messy and tucked beneath a faded ball cap. The same CEO once featured on finance magazine covers now held a mop like a rookie maintenance worker. "Remember why you're doing this," he whispered to himself, adjusting the fake name tag on his chest. An anonymous email had landed in his private inbox last month, one that pushed Lucas to do something he'd never done before. Go undercover inside the very movie theatre chain he had built, StarView Cinemas. All the internal reports looked pristine, but the words in that email painted a different picture. Exploited staff, abusive managers, a toxic work culture. He couldn't believe it. Yet he couldn't ignore it either. He needed to see it with his own eyes. The Westgate flagship location was where he chose to begin. It was the first theatre he'd ever opened, the one he was most proud of. He signed up for the night shift, fewer people, easier to observe. As he pushed his cleaning cart through the main lobby, the smell of buttery popcorn and echoes from the screening rooms triggered memories of his younger days. This place had once been his dream. Now he wondered, had it become a nightmare? Suddenly, a soft voice caught his ear from behind a large movie poster near Theatre 3. "Elena, are you sure about this? We could get caught." Lucas froze. Two young women in StarView uniforms stood behind the poster, speaking in hushed tones. He pretended to mop the floor nearby, eyes down but ears focused. "Naomi, I don't have a choice," said the taller girl, likely Elena Cruz. "My grandma's bedridden. Her medication's almost out. I already borrowed from Vincent. If I don't pay him back next week, he said he's coming to the house." Naomi Park clenched her fists. "How did you even get involved with him? We don't make enough to—" "I had no one else to turn to. My mom died when I was 13. My dad—" "Don't even ask." Eleanor let out a dry, bitter laugh. "Naomi, my grandma's all I have left." Lucas felt his throat tighten. He'd expected to uncover complaints about broken air conditioning or rude customers, maybe staff cutting corners. He hadn't expected this. An impending crime. By two girls who looked more tired than dangerous. "What about you?" Eleanor turned to Naomi. "I know they cut your scholarship. If you get kicked out of school, what else do you have left?" Naomi didn't answer, but after a pause, she nodded. "Then, I'll help you, just this once." They began whispering details, night shifts, camera blind spots, the code to the cash safe. Lucas listened, heart pounding. He could report them to security. He could stop this before it even started. But in their eyes, he saw no criminal intent, only despair. They weren't thieves. They were girls cornered by a system that didn't care. Lucas gripped the mop handle tighter, his gaze darkening. He had 24 hours to decide, punish them or save them from a mistake that could destroy the rest of their lives. The next day, Lucas Grant returned to StarView Cinemas earlier than usual. The janitor uniform was still on him, and his faded baseball cap was pulled low to hide the dark circles under his eyes. He hadn't slept a minute. Eleanor's trembling voice and Naomi's hollow stare haunted him. What kept him up most was the gnawing feeling that he bore some responsibility. Lucas moved quietly through the hallways, pretending to clean the glass door to the staff room. From that vantage point, he could see through the frosted glass. Elena sat alone. The coffee in front of her had long gone cold. Her eyes were sunken, her hands shaking as she checked her phone. A text popped up. Lucas managed to catch a glimpse. "You have 48 hours, Elena, or I visit your grandma." Signed V.H. Vincent Hale. The man really wasn't leaving them a way out. "You okay?" Naomi Park entered quietly, her voice tinged with concern. Elena just nodded faintly, quickly slipping her phone back into her pocket. "Derek's looking for you. Something about yesterday's sales again," Naomi continued, then sighed. "You know how he is. Nothing's ever enough." Lucas noticed Elena discreetly pulling out a pill bottle, her hand so well hidden that no one would have noticed she was taking painkillers unless they were watching closely. As Elena left the room, Naomi checked her phone. An email lit up the screen from her university's financial office. "Your scholarship has been revoked due to insufficient credits." She broke down in tears. Lucas turned away, his chest tightening like someone had gripped his heart. No one should have to carry burdens like this, especially not young people still trying to live decently in a world so stacked against them. That entire day, Lucas watched from a distance. Elena worked non-stop, trying to smile for customers despite the redness in her eyes. Naomi manned the ticketing counter, typing away while glancing at the clock every few minutes, clearly calculating something. He also kept an eye on Derek Vaughan, the wiry manager with sharp eyes and a mouth that never stopped complaining. Lucas watched him berate Elena for being 3 minutes late to clean the windows. Naomi got assigned to close shift without explanation, just a casual, "We're short-staffed." "StarView isn't a place for the weak," Derek barked. "If it's too much, quit. There's 100 others waiting in line for this job." Lucas stood frozen. He had dreamed of building a place where employees were respected. Now the very flag he had once raised proudly was shielding a toxic system he hadn't even known existed. That night, while cleaning near one of the theaters, Lucas spotted Miles Chen, the sound technician, leaning quietly against a wall. He watched Elena walk by, eyes conflicted. I know what you're about to do," Miles said softly as Elena passed. "I don't know the details, but if you need time, I could forget to reset the backstage camera." Elena spun around, panic in her eyes. "Miles, no, I don't support it. But I understand," he said before turning away, leaving her frozen. 9 p.m. Lucas received a report from his private security team. Vincent Hale, Elena's debt collector, had a prior record for extortion and threats of violence. He was known to prowl movie theaters, targeting young workers with difficult lives. Lucas put away his phone, clenching his fists. Everything was coming into focus. An abusive manager, a dangerous loan shark, 2 girls on the brink of ruin, and a system that hadn't been inspected in years. He couldn't extinguish the fire without finding its source. He had less than a day left, but this time he wouldn't just stop a theft. He would save an entire system that was rotting from the inside out. Lucas Grant spent the entire next morning closely observing the inner workings of StarView Cinemas. From behind the staff lounge door, he followed every move Elena Cruz and Naomi Park made, trying to piece together the fragments of a story, one he now believed he had unintentionally helped create. In a brief moment when the 2 girls stood beside the drink station, Naomi whispered, "Tonight, 10:50 p.m. Troy will be checking the projector in Theater 6. I arranged it." Elena gave a slight nod. "The safe code's still 1918. I've seen him punch it in every night before counting the cash." Lucas heard every word. The voices weren't loud, but each syllable carried the weight of a decision that could ruin their lives. He knew he couldn't let this unfold without digging deeper into what had led them here. He followed Derek Vaughan, the manager, as the man sat comfortably in his office. a StarView branded coffee cup on his desk, and a stack of ledgers spread open. Through the gap in the partially closed door, Lucas caught a glimpse of a document titled Blacklisted Staff Under Surveillance. The first name on the list, Elena Cruz. Beneath it, a handwritten note read, "Too many sick days, high chance of sneaky behavior." Lucas clenched his jaw. An hour later, Miles Chen, the theater's technician, ran into Lucas while adjusting cables behind the projection counter. Still playing the role of a new janitor, Lucas casually asked about the security cameras. "The back hallway camera's been broken for weeks. I reported it twice." Derek ignored it. Miles spoke cautiously, eyes darting. "And the storeroom cam. Someone's clearly tampered with the angle." Lucas instantly understood. With the instincts of a CEO who'd managed 15 cinemas across the country, the full picture was coming into focus. Derek wasn't just lazy and authoritarian. He might have been enabling shady activity behind the scenes. By late morning, Lucas found Naomi sitting alone behind the ticket booth, furiously typing into her battered phone. "Need help with something?" he asked, keeping his tone low, casual. "Just another worker." Naomi startled, then sighed. "Just checking if I can scrape enough together for tuition this semester. Not that it matters. I'm being kicked out anyway." Lucas frowned. "Kicked out?" "They revoked my scholarship, said I was missing credits. But I enrolled on time. It was a system error. They admitted it. But the scholarship's already gone." She gave a bitter laugh. "My mum died when I was 10. Dad didn't last much longer. I've been putting myself through school alone. And now they're telling me to pay $3,400 in 3 days, or they'll cut my student account access." Lucas said nothing. His throat tightened. A young woman who should have been supported was instead being crushed by the very institutions meant to help her. Later that evening, in a quiet moment near the storeroom, Elena was on her phone. Lucas, pushing his mop bucket nearby, caught the unmistakable tremor in her voice. "Please, Vincent, I just need more time." He stopped. "Just until next week. My grandmother can't move. If you do anything—" Silence. "I'll pay. I said I would." She closed the phone, pressing her forehead to the wall. Lucas walked past slowly, placing a hand lightly on the mop handle in front of her, pretending to be just another worker. But in his mind, everything was clear now. Vincent Hale, a predator who hunted among the poor, a loan shark with a violent record, someone who preyed on desperation. Back in the projection room, Lucas made a phone call. "Lena," he said, speaking to his longtime internal audit manager, "I need you to pull the last 6 months of internal complaints at StarView. And Lena, run a deep check on someone named Vincent Hale." "What's going on, Lucas?" Her voice was tense. "Something serious, and I need everything before 10 p.m. tonight." He hung up and looked up at the projection booth lights, flickering against the ceiling, casting a movie world illusion over a harsh reality. He knew time was running out, but he also knew this much. Tonight everything would change, if he could act fast enough, and with enough resolve, to expose the truth hiding in the dark. The evening shift at StarView Cinemas began under a suffocating tension. Lucas Grant stepped into the lobby in his usual janitor uniform, pushing a mop cart, eyes scanning every corner. Beneath the guise of ordinariness, he was a man walking into the decaying heart of the very business he built. Across the ticket counter, Naomi Park sat hunched over, eyes glued to her computer screen, trying to hide the exhaustion behind them. She barely spoke that night, keeping her head down, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Elena Cruz, on the other hand, worked with mechanical precision, scanning tickets, selling popcorn, wiping counters, each task executed neatly and without error. But Lucas could see the urgency in her every movement. She was counting time, counting down. At 9:30 p.m., Derek Vaughan called an impromptu staff meeting in the lobby. Lucas stood quietly at the back of the group, eyes fixed on the very manager he was secretly investigating. "Listen up," Derek began, voice booming. "This week's revenue is down 20%. If it keeps up like this, I'm cutting hours." A few staff exchanged nervous glances. Naomi clenched her fists until her knuckles turned white. "Also," Derek continued, "from today on, no one spends more than 3 minutes helping a customer. This isn't a nursing home. If anyone has a problem with that, you're free to leave." Lucas closed his eyes. He had once written in the company's strategic handbook that customer service is the heart of the brand. And now that very heart was being strangled by policies like this. After the group dispersed, Miles Chen, the quiet audio tech, approached Lucas, pretending to inspect the fuse box nearby. "Did you see the back hallway camera?" he whispered, not looking up. "I fixed the angle, but Derek secretly switched it back to blind spot mode." Lucas gave a subtle nod. "Anything else?" "Security room's locked when no one's inside, but I left a hidden access point through the tech floor. If you need to record something off the books, that's your way in." Lucas offered a grateful smile. In a rotten machine, this quiet young man was the small flicker of light he needed. By 10 p.m., Lucas returned to the break room, where Miles had secretly granted him access to the internal security feeds. On the small monitor, he saw Elena slipping quietly into the rear hallway that connected directly to Derek's office. At the same time, Naomi distracted guard Troy Bennett by pointing toward Theatre 4's tech booth. "Troy, I think I smell something burning near the projector." "You're kidding, right?" Troy groaned. "I just replaced the cables." He walked off just as Naomi planned. Lucas kept his eyes locked on the screen. Everything was unfolding exactly as the girls had discussed. But what struck him most wasn't the act. It was the look in their eyes. There was no greed, no thrill, only despair, and a faint belief that if doing wrong could save someone they loved, maybe it wasn't wrong after all. At 10:15 p.m., Elena stood before the manager's door, hand trembling. She pulled out a small scrap of paper with the safe code, one she had memorized watching Derek each night. But just as she reached for the keypad, a voice whispered from the hallway, "You don't have to do this." She spun around. Lucas stepped out of the shadows. No more disguises, no mop, just him. Calm, steady, sincere. "I know about Vincent Hale, the debt, your grandmother." Eleanor could only gasp. "And Naomi," he continued, "I know about your revoked scholarship. I called the university. I know it wasn't your fault." The two girls stood frozen. Lucas slowly raised his hand, his voice firm yet gentle. "I'm Lucas Grant. I built StarView Cinemas, and I let it fall into the hands of someone like Derek." A silence followed, heavy as a lifetime. "But tonight," he said slowly, "I'm here to make it right, if you'll let me." Elena whispered, "So, you're not calling the police?" Lucas shook his head. "Number. I'm calling someone who can actually help, but not the police. We'll handle this the right way, openly, justly, and starting with ending the cycle that made you believe stealing was your only option." Outside, the clock struck 10:30 p.m. Elena dropped the paper with the safe code to the ground, as if shedding a weight she'd carried for weeks. Naomi slumped onto the nearest chair, tears silently spilling from her eyes. Lucas sat down beside them. "Starting tomorrow, you won't have to fight this alone anymore." And with that sentence, the most important battle of his career, a battle for justice, trust, and dignity, had officially begun. After that tense confrontation in the dim hallway, Lucas Grant knew tonight was no longer just about stopping a theft. It was a chance to pull back the curtain on everything rotting inside the very movie theater chain he once took pride in building. He sent Elena and Naomi back to the employee lounge, promising he'd return. Then he made his way straight to the manager's office, where Derek Vaughan was still lounging in a sleek leather chair like a king, sipping coffee and scrolling through revenue reports. "That's odd," Derek muttered. "Why were the cameras just reset?" "Might be a technical glitch," Lucas replied, stepping in quietly. Derek looked up. 1 second of confusion. Then he jumped to his feet. What the hell?" Lucas removed his janitor cap, revealing the face of the CEO. "Lucas Grant," he said calmly, eyes locked on Derek. "Founder of StarView Cinemas. And the man who's just witnessed nearly 30 counts of misconduct from you over the past 2 nights." Derek turned pale. But like all seasoned manipulators, he shrugged. "I did what I had to, for profits. Cut hours, trimmed budgets, pushed for higher sales. That's how you keep a chain alive in tough times. I thought that's why you hired me." Lucas stepped closer, placing a stack of printed documents on the desk. Camera stills, financial statements, and employee reports. "I hired you to lead, not to exploit." He pointed to the breakdown. "You slashed wages by forcing staff to work overtime off the clock, made them clean after shifts, cover tech roles. One employee had a miscarriage because you denied her time off. And this—" Lucas pushed another record toward him. "This is the maintenance fee you reported to the company, but it went straight into your personal account, and it gets worse." The door opened. Miles Chen walked in, holding an external hard drive. "I pulled all the camera data from the past 3 months," he said, "including footage of Derek taking cash from the register and logging it as a special marketing expense." Derek stepped back, eyes darting from Lucas to Miles to the hard drive. "You can't do this. I'll sue you for invasion of privacy." "And if I call the police right now?" Lucas cut him off, voice suddenly sharp as steel. "Do you think I'll hesitate?" Derek went silent. Lucas turned to Miles. "Get all the files to legal and send a copy to the labor board." Miles nodded and left. Alone with Derek, Lucas lowered his voice. "I used to think this company only needed people who could generate profit. But you've shown me something else. When you let people like you run things, what you build isn't a business. It's a trap for the vulnerable." He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Troy," Lucas said calmly, "escort Derek Vaughan off the premises, permanently." As Troy Bennett escorted Derek out of the theater, Naomi and Elena watched from a distance, still wide-eyed with disbelief. But for the first time, they witnessed a different kind of ending. The abuser being removed, not the victims being sacrificed. Lucas approached them, extending a hand. "Now we start over, but first, I need you to trust me." Elena's voice trembled. "Why are you doing this? Why not call the cops? Why not arrest us?" Lucas looked her in the eyes that had once been filled with hopelessness. "Because I saw myself in you. I've been there, trapped, thinking there was no way out. Someone once pulled me back from the edge. Now it's my turn to pull someone else." Naomi couldn't speak. Elena clenched her hands, lips quivering. Lucas tilted his head. "I'll erase every trace of tonight, but I need you to do one thing." "What is it?" Elena asked. "Help me fix this place, rebuild StarView into what I always dreamed it could be. A place where employees aren't afraid, where no one has to choose between doing the right thing and surviving." Naomi nodded. Elena's tears finally fell, and she whispered, "We're ready." In that moment, no other words were needed. An old era had collapsed, and a new beginning, honest, just, and full of hope, was born from the very place that had almost been swallowed by darkness. The next morning, there were no more echoes of Derek Vaughan yelling down the employee hallway. No more scenes of Elena quietly scrubbing cinema floors late into the night, or Naomi nervously checking school emails between ticket stubs. No more shadows of fear hanging over every step. Instead, there was silence, calm, as if StarView Cinemas itself was holding its breath, waiting for something, a real change. Lucas Grant entered the main lobby, no longer wearing the janitor uniform. Today, he was fully himself, CEO founder, and the man taking responsibility. Naomi and Elena had arrived early. They looked unsure, still adjusting to the sudden peace. But when Lucas called them into the conference room, they walked in with different eyes. The eyes of two young women who had crossed the line and somehow been given the chance to come back. Lucas offered a gentle smile, pulling out 2 chairs for them. I kept my word. Vincent Hale, the loan shark, was arrested at 5 a.m. this morning. Police found over 20 illegal contracts and a list of those he threatened. You were on it, Elena. Elena covered her mouth. She nodded, speechless. And Naomi, Lucas continued, I spoke to your school. They confirmed the scholarship was lost due to a system error. Your scholarship has been reinstated. And as for the outstanding tuition, I've asked StarView Cinemas to cover it. Consider it a formal apology for the injustice you endured. Naomi froze in disbelief. I don't know what to say. You don't have to, Lucas replied. All I ask is that you keep living with integrity and help me turn this place into somewhere worth believing in. He opened a file folder on the table. I want to invite you both to become internal advisors, not managers, not supervisors, but the voice of the employees. Once a month, we'll sit down, just us. And I'll ask you, what's broken? What needs to change? No filters, no polished reports. Just the truth. Elena asked hesitantly. And our regular shifts, our wages. Lucas chuckled softly. Elena, your new salary will be double, and you'll have enough time to care for your grandmother without losing hours. Naomi, too. All staff at StarView will be issued new contracts, with guaranteed breaks, the right to decline forced shifts, and the ability to report exploitation directly to me. The room fell still. Something deep and quiet stirred behind the girl's eyes. Naomi whispered, Do we really deserve all this? Lucas looked at them honestly. Not only do you deserve it, you've reminded me of something I forgot. All the years I poured into building this system, I forgot that people are the foundation. He stood and held out his hand. So, shall we begin again, together? Elena gripped his hand firmly. Naomi took the other, eyes brimming with tears but lit up by a glowing smile. Outside the glass walls of the conference room, sunlight poured into StarView for the first time in what felt like years, shining down on a place that had once lost its soul. And in that moment, a new chapter began. Not on screen, but in the hearts of those who once believed they were merely background characters, now rewritten as the ones leading the story forward. 3 days later, StarView Cinemas felt like a different world. Gone were the suffocating silences, the heavy footsteps echoing down halls, or the nervous glances each time a manager walked by. In their place, quiet laughter, genuine good morning greetings, and employees finally unafraid to speak their truth. Lucas Grant no longer issued orders from some office high above. He showed up every day on the main floor, stopping at every counter, asking every person, How's your shift today? Is anyone out sick and still waiting for coverage? What can I do to support you better? A new board had been posted at the break room entrance, clearly marked. Every concern will be heard, directly, no intermediaries. At the bottom corner, a simple but powerful signature, Lucas. Elena Cruz and Naomi Park no longer shrank into the background. They now wore uniforms bearing a new badge, Internal Employee Advisor, and were greeted by others with a mix of respect and quiet gratitude. Elena used her well-earned leave to care for her grandmother, for the first time in months, without having to choose between duty and survival. Naomi returned to school on her reinstated scholarship, and every evening after her shift spent 30 minutes helping younger co-workers manage their finances. At the first all-staff meeting, Lucas stood in the center of a packed room. Not to discipline, but to listen. He didn't say much about Derek Vaughan, who was now under investigation by both corporate headquarters and the city's labor department. But he did announce something important. Starting today, every StarView location will implement the human-centered oversight protocol, meaning any employee has the right to request a review of any decision regarding scheduling, pay, or disciplinary action. No one holds absolute authority, not even me. The applause that followed wasn't loud, but it was sincere, because it came from hands that used to tremble, hands that now believed their claps wouldn't be drowned out by arbitrary commands. Miles Chen, the quiet technician, was promoted to head of technical security. The first person he thanked was Troy Bennett, the security guard who had once been distracted during the incident. Now the two were a seamless team, adjusting camera systems, drafting emergency response protocols. Lucas approached and clapped them both on the shoulder. Sometimes it's the silent watchers who end up saving the whole system. During a quiet moment before the evening screenings, Naomi turned to Lucas. "Do you think there will be other Derek Vaughans?" Lucas nodded. "There will be. Wherever there's power, there's risk of abuse. But this time, we have light. And you two, are the ones carrying the torch." Elena looked at Naomi, then back at Lucas. "And what if one day, I'm the one who loses myself in that power?" Lucas smiled gently. "Then I hope someone else, just like I did today, will step up and remind you why you started." StarView Cinemas, once a glittering facade hiding a dark backstage, had truly changed. Not because of a polished report, not because of a meeting room decision, but because a few young people nearly lost their hope. And one man who had forgotten the heart of his own company found the way out, together, and from now on, that flame of change will never stand alone again. 1 month after that fateful night, StarView Cinemas' Westgate branch wasn't just recovering, it had transformed. Outside the theater, a new banner glowed brightly, a line proposed by Elena and Naomi themselves. "Here, every story matters, including yours." Inside, the once weary hallways were now decorated with staff portraits and handwritten thank you notes from customers. On the main bulletin board, a letter, handwritten and pinned with care, stood out. It was from Lucas Grant. "I once forgot that a company is only truly strong when its heart is made of people who feel respected. Thank you for reminding me." Lucas Grant. That evening, StarView hosted a special screening, a private showing for employees, their families, and a few very special guests, including media representatives, Naomi's university, youth labor advocates, and even former staff who had left StarView because of unfair treatment. Elena wheeled in her grandmother, whose face beamed with joy as if a decade had been lifted from her soul. Naomi sat beside a young student, someone she was now mentoring, helping with an urgent scholarship application. Lucas stood at the back of the theater. He didn't step on stage. He gave no speech. He simply watched, quietly. Before the main feature, a short documentary played, recounting StarView's journey over the past 30 days. Naomi's voice narrated the piece, soft but full of quiet strength. "We once thought we were just background characters. But he, the man the world saw as strong and successful, knelt down, looked us in the eye and asked, 'What can I do to support you better?'" Applause broke out after the clip, but more powerful than the sound were the eyes. Eyes that once looked down in fear, now shining with hope. After the film, Lucas stepped outside. Moonlight cast his silhouette across the steps. Elena caught up with him, clutching a small envelope. "This is the first payment for the support you gave me. I know you said I didn't have to repay it. But to me, this isn't just money. It's a thank you." Lucas accepted the envelope silently. He nodded, then looked toward Naomi, who was helping the elderly woman into the car. "And for me," he said slowly, Every day you both continue to live with kindness. That's the most meaningful repayment of all. The following week, Lucas launched a new initiative, StarView Voices, a program where employees could submit videos or letters sharing their personal stories. Each week, selected stories would be turned into short films and screened before Sunday showings, so that every audience member would understand, behind each ticket is a real life. And for the first time, the big screen displayed the words, based on a true story, and maybe one day yours. And just like that, from the darkest pages, a brand new script was written. Not by screenwriters, but by everyday people who had found their voices again, their trust, and their rightful place under the lights. StarView Cinemas no longer just screened movies. It screened hope. It screened rebirth. And it screened the powerful truth. When a leader dares to face reality, an entire system can be saved. No one expected that a CEO who once led a major theater chain would put on a janitor's uniform, hold a mop, just to hear the voices buried in the shadows. No one thought that two girls on the verge of losing their future would become the ones to lay the foundation for a powerful change. And no one believed that a broken system could be saved by courage, forgiveness, and faith in humanity. But Lucas Grant did exactly that, because he understood a company isn't built on profit. It's built on people who believe they are valued. If you believe that empathy can transform an entire system, if you believe that the vulnerable deserve to be heard and protected, subscribe to our channel so you won't miss stories like this. And don't forget to share this video, because somewhere out there, someone might just need a small light to find their way back.